you see what, Tom, you see the taxi right there. No, she's out there. Patsy.
Yeah.
We thought you.
Okay, Frank, can you sit down? We'll get moving. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting for the corporate authorities of the Village of Campton Hills. Roll call,
President Wojnicki,
present.
Trustee Muir,
Present.
Trustee Millet,
President, if I could.
absent.
He said he'll be here in 12 to 15 minutes.
Trustee Hoffensberger,
Here.
Trustee Burson,
Here.
Trustee Boatner,
Here.
Trustee Benetti.
Here.
Okay, everybody please rise for the pledge. Treese, will you lead us in the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty. Okay, we're at public comment. I do want to do December 2025 Officer of the Month, Sebastian Adamczyk. Did I do that good? All right, James.
Well, that was pretty good, because I've been worrying about saying his last
All
name this
right.
whole time, so. Well, this is sort of an hour behind, so I appreciate them coming in, especially on their off time and waiting until 8 o'clock. So I want to recognize Sebastian for the December 2025 Officer of the Month. In 2025, he was hired by the department, and he was the first officer in over 15 years that actually attended the Basic Recruit Academy through CELIA. He graduated, completed his FTO. He did an excellent job. Since starting with the department, he's been a welcome addition. He has a great personality. He's a great guy, easy to get along with. He's very professional, dedicated, and he's a good human being. Sebastian was recommended by 2 other members of the department for this recognition. In the month of December, I received 3 separate emails or phone calls about Sebastian from residents for things that he did, his professional manner, going above and beyond. He also, which a good asset is Sebastian speaks Polish, so he was able to de-escalate a call with a gentleman by speaking Polish to him, so that was a great job by him. He's always willing to cover open shifts, work extra details, including our community events. We're very fortunate to have Sebastian as part of the family and look forward to the great things he'll accomplish, because Sebastian still has a 25, 30-year career ahead of him, so he has a lot. So I want to congratulate Sebastian for December 2025 Officer of the Month.
All right. Congratulations, Sebastian. Yeah, thank you all for waiting. Okay, are there any other public comments?
Yes, Timothy McPhillips.
Timothy McPhillips?
Good evening. My name is Tim McPhillips, and I served as the village treasurer for the last 2.5 years before resigning at year's end. I would like to clarify some statements that were made at the last board meeting. First of all, I think it is relevant that the citizens of the village understand that when I was initially hired 2.5 years ago, my limited duties and hours were discussed and agreed to with the former village administrator. Upon starting my role, I began questioning who handles cash. It was at this point that I was first informed that there were concerns about missing cash and inappropriate disposition of village assets. I was informed that a forensic audit was being conducted by an outside independent firm. This was not a comfortable position to be placed in, and I initially felt deceived that this wasn't brought up when I was offered the position just a week prior. Shortly afterward, this board decided to place a senior member of the leadership team on administrative leave. Not soon after this, the board made the decision to abruptly, without any consultation with me, to immediately terminate the village administrator and the executive assistant. This hasty and imprudent decision then left me, a part-time employee, with the responsibility of picking up many of their duties. I'm proud that in spite of this board's poor decision-making skills, I was able to maintain back-office operations with the assistance of Michelle Howley. Citizens of this town should know that members of this board made the decision not to continue with that forensic audit. Contrary to statements at the last meeting, the bank accounts for this fiscal year audit were reconciled. Period. Full stop. How do I know this? Because I did them. Should have I done them? No. I shouldn't do that because I also move cash, issue checks, and am responsible for financial statements. Good operational practices would state that I shouldn't be performing all of these duties without oversight. These duties should be segregated. Why weren't they? I've asked this board on multiple occasions to invest more in administrative staff to backfill the positions lost during the purge that occurred after the 2023 election. I have consistently provided you the exact same financial reports that my predecessors provided. I cannot make you read them, and I can't help you understand them if you don't ask. Comments on being over budget at the last meeting. Well, you are over budget because you hire your colleagues for jobs we don't have available or don't need, and you pay out former colleagues with taxpayer money for allegations that were never filed with a court. This board does not understand municipal budgeting, and this is after you spend thousands of unbudgeted dollars to go on conferences to discuss municipal operations. All of you seem like fine, decent people, but watching this board legislate is like watching a rendition of Lord of the Flies. I think you can do a lot better than you've been doing, that I've witnessed for the last 2.5 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. All right, any other public comment?
Kenneth Shepro.
Good evening, Kenneth Shepro, Geneva, Kane County local historian. I'm here because I wanted to congratulate the village. If you are not aware, there was a story in the Aurora Beacon on, I believe, Monday morning that announced that the National Park Service, after detailed investigation, has certified the first known Underground Railroad site located on the former Bartlett property in Campton Township. And since this is Black History Month, it is probably appropriate. And I believe that you should read the article and congratulate you and your township people on what I think is a significant addition to Kane County history. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ken. All right, anybody else?
No.
Okay. All right, moving on to 4, consent agenda. Anything to remove from the consent agenda? Any items? Okay, hearing none. Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to pass the consent agenda.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Kim, second. Do I have a second? Moved by, second
Second.
by Trees. Okay, roll call.
Trustee Muir,
Aye.
trustee Hoffensberger,
Aye.
trustee Benetti,
Aye.
trustee Boatner,
Aye.
trustee Burson. Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Moving on to 5, staff reports. Finance update. up.
Oh, that's first.
Is that
Would
the-
you like me to go to the podium?
Oh, yeah, that'd be fine.
Patsy Smith, Village Treasurer, this hat. We've been very busy the last 2 weeks. We've met, I think it was Wednesday, or the day or two after I got here, we met with the chief, with President Wonicky and Administrator Rooney, and went over the police budget request. And so we clarified some of those things, had a good discussion with Russ, he was there too. And so we did that initial request, and I know that Russ has started working on the budget template and plugging these numbers in. We plan on having a meeting this week with Administrator Rooney to discuss some of the revenue projections and things. So the budget process has started. I did look and noticed that you have 3 vacancies on the Finance Committee, so I would recommend that you put something out in community counts, maybe talk to some of the people that have been on it before, and see if they'd be willing to reserve, because it really is helpful to have a group of citizens, review what's being proposed and give their 2 cents and make recommendations to the board. Not that you have to consider that, but I think it's just helpful to have people, as long as the people on the committee actually understand budgeting and finance and you get the right kind of volunteers. Some of the issues that we have found, I don't know if you want me to go into it now, but I think basically, and it's unfortunate that Tim McPhillips left early, is some of the evidence from what we've seen in looking through the software, and I think Russ would agree, is that we don't believe he ever mastered the software in a way where he could just push the button and give you your monthly reports, which is one of the reasons we have evidence that he was doing them in Excel based on what we found in the software, correct? And so our goal is to master the software, because that's where you're going to get your best continuity and your easiest reports. We've had a lot of issues this week because, 2 weeks ago when 2 weeks ago when I was appointed, we were already late with 1099s. We have no evidence that they were done previously. We hope they were, but we haven't found it yet. And so we had to upgrade the software because it hadn't been upgraded, so we have several versions of that. Russ had to spend over 30 minutes on the phone with them because our 1099s were printing out golden parachutes, so we had to, we can't send those out. So, so we just have had a lot of technical issues. The periods, we couldn't do things because the periods weren't set up correctly in the software. All of these things, you have to close out previous years before the software will let you go to the next year. So we had Rebecca Flackus, who was our former village treasurer, who I believe she's a CPA, right? I don't know. I don't know whether she is or not, but she seems pretty efficient, and she was able to help us with a lot of those tasks. So we're on the point. The other thing, the day I took office, we were late on, was the annual, I think they call it the annual account. You would probably call it a treasurer's report. Well, it's due within 6 months after the fiscal year end. It's got to be filed at the county and published in a newspaper article. Well, that's our goal this week. I think you had to wait till you got the journal entries that the auditor gave us. They have to be put in, then we have to reprint the trial balances. And do we get all those in today? Or do we still have a few more? So hopefully by the end of the week, if we can get those records to balance with what we have in our records, I'll be filing the annual report. So then we're up to date on that. I plan on meeting sometime with police pension chairman Hoffman, because I know there's a law that requires them to file a report on the first Tuesday of May, and I'm not really sure whether that ever happened or not. We have an issue where one of the police officers is from Oswego, right? He's trying to bring his pension over from Oswego. We discovered that there was an error when they converted to 12-hour shifts. And I think it's a paychecks error or issue. I haven't confirmed, but police officers were set up on a salary basis, but yet first responders are paid overtime after they hit 170-something hours in a month, or something, what,
171.
171 a month. So the issue is the calculation to determine their fee when they converted to hourly so they could get it into the software right was too high. So evidently, it looks like every full-time officer is being paid $4,000 more a year than they should be. So we're going to have to address that through next year's budget cycle to figure out how we're going to handle it. So we've talked to the chief, he's aware of the issue. I think the officers know about the issue. And so, but the issue is that we're going to have to meet with the police pension board to make sure that we can do what we can to let them know that there is a error in what the guy's been paid, and they should rerun the actuarial studies because the poor guy's being asked to pay a lot of money to bring his pension over. So that's something, you know, there's just numerous those kinds of issues that we've been dealing with. I have a 10-page list of things that I'm happy to go over with anybody. I'm not really sure this is the right time. But we're making progress. Unfortunately, we can't do any bank recs until all the journal entries are entered. All the cash transfers, we found the pile of paper of when they happened, but none of them had been entered into the software. And so therefore, you know, we can't move forward till that gets entered in. All the auditors, you know, journal entries have to be entered in. And then we have to balance the previous 3 years before you can close it out, move to the next one, and then start on May. So that's why this takes time. And as I told Administrator Rooney, if worse comes to worse, I'll set up a spreadsheet and I will manually put in everything based on the 24 warrants or 26 warrants we've had in the last year and come up with a year-to-date number for you all to know as we move forward. But when in the early days of the village, we did zero-based budgeting. And that might be what we have to start with, and that is you project your revenue, and then because you have to have a balanced budget anyway, so you project your revenue and your expenses, and you just don't even pay attention to what happened before. You know, we started with not even 1 penny, so we didn't have any history. But if I have to, we'll put it in a spreadsheet. If we can't manually do it through the software and do all the bank recs, because we have to have all that other junk in the system first, then we'll have to do it that way. But we're committed. I think I'd have to go back unless one of the attorneys knows the exact date. I assume, do you know the dates for the Budget Act and the hearing requirements? We have to approve the budget before April 30th. It's May 1st. So we have to have it finished by then, but we have to have a hearing.
429 last year.
Yeah, so we have to, but we have to have a hearing, so we're gonna have to look it up, and we're gonna do all we can to get all the information you need. And I hope it's not, my goal would have been for you all, would have been to have the hearing at the beginning of March, so you'd have 2 months to review everything, but I don't think that's gonna be possible. So hopefully, no later than the first meeting in April. You should, that's my goal. I think it's hopefully attainable. The first meeting in April is when I would like to make sure we have the hearing, as long as there's not something in the Budget Act that says a particular time when we have to have it. And then that would give you the rest of the month. We can, hopefully, then you can choose whether to have a special meeting after the second meeting of the month to actually pass it if we still have questions that you haven't been addressed. But that's my goal. So if you have any questions, I'm always available. Go ahead.
I would like you to address a repeated, what I believe is a really serious misrepresentation about balancing bank statements, balancing accounts generally, not necessarily your misrepresentation, but misrepresentations that have been made over and over and over again over the last couple of months.
All I can tell you is.
About, hear me
Okay.
out, please.
Okay.
Because what I heard you say was that your belief was that the work was not being done within the software tool that we were paying good money for. And to the extent that that is perhaps true, I think we can all agree that we would like the work to be done in the software tool that we're paying good money for. I don't think there's any question about that. However, the representation that we've heard over and over and over again is that statements were not being reconciled. It was as if we don't really know how much money we had in the bank, but that is not true. I think I mean, we just heard former Treasurer McPhillips explain that he knows that those reconciliations were done because he did them. Now, I understand it's quite likely, and I think you confirmed that this is the case, that those reconciliations were not done within the tool that we want them to be done within. So that I think we can stipulate to that. But that doesn't mean that they weren't done, and it doesn't mean that we didn't know where our money was. And we keep hearing about this as if it's, you know, just really rank incompetence, and we don't even know what we have in our checking account. We can't even write checks because we don't know what's there because the account's not reconciled. Well, I mean, you can reconcile an account on the back of the bank statement. That's how I was originally taught to do it. I think you were too, right? And you can reconcile it in QuickBooks, and you can reconcile it in a spreadsheet, and you can reconcile it in Cassell. There's lots of different ways you can reconcile it. So although we could all agree that we would like it reconciled in Cassell because that's what we pay for, it sounds like it's been a misrepresentation that we've heard otherwise, that the reconciliations weren't done. So can you speak to that?
Sure. What I can say is what I was told by Administrator Rooney was, I would believe it was for the FY '24, the FY '25 fiscal year, the audit you just finished, that he hired someone named Susan Griffin to come in and do the ARPA final report. And that was 2024. So, okay, so in 2024, fiscal year 2024, she did the final ARPA report, and she also did a number of bank recs that weren't done in Cassell. I have no idea what happened outside of Cassell, and that she got them done in Cassell, and so she was able to generate the information for that particular audit. I do know, based on what we went through, I'm going to have Russ speak because he's just was working on this today, and I was busy, so I don't really know. I have the latest and greatest information. But could you come and explain the question about the bank reconciliation and what you found? I know that we decided as a group, meaning Rebecca Flackis, the former treasurer, Russ and I, that we should go back to September 2022, print the bank statement out, print out anything in the system and match it up, you know, just to make sure, because we believe the last person that mastered the software was Rebecca. You know, and that's what I've said. Maybe the numbers you
Granted,
guys.
but it doesn't mean that the reconciliations weren't done.
But I don't think we found evidence in the files or Excel spreadsheet. We just don't know what was done, other than, all we can speak to is the software, unless he's stumbled onto something in the file that I'm unaware of. So go ahead.
So, what I know is that, obviously I wasn't here then. What I know is what Mark told me was that for FY '24, they had to delay the start of the audit because he didn't have the reconciliation.
But that's over.
Okay, so that's when they brought in this woman, and she worked on the ARPA reconciliation, and then assisted him in getting the bank recs
Right,
done.
but not this budget year.
Let him finish. Let him
Let me
finish,
finish.
yes.
And so for FY '25, when the auditors came in September to do their field work, okay, 5 months after the end of the year, the bank reconciliations were done. I don't know, I don't think anybody here knows when he got those done. My guess is he got those done probably sometime in August, September, right before the auditors got here. When I started here on December 3rd, one of the first things that Timothy told me was that he hasn't reconciled the bank accounts. And I know he hadn't because none of the cash transfers were recorded. None of the entries for the paychecks, debits out of the account for their fees were recorded. So there's no way he would have had an exact number. Did he have a worksheet somewhere or a napkin with some numbers and kind of jot? Maybe that's how he manages cash. But it's a terrible way to do it, okay? He told me he didn't have them done. When he stood up here tonight and said he got them done for the audit. But he knows damn well he hasn't done a bank rec since then. Okay, that was the end of April. This is February. So you can't tell me the bank recs were done. We haven't, if they were done, show them to me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Russ.
The only thing, you've already approved the warrant, so I hope you noticed that warrant 2620A, I think was the number. What we found out was that, and sometime I think it was 23, or maybe 22, I can't remember which fiscal year we started, 23. We realized that nobody was putting payroll or the payroll taxes on the warrant. So we just did it by fiscal year up through last warrant, or last pay period, because the last one was Friday, and that one was on the current warrant, so that was on the first warrant, and the rest, and you ratified it. So at least now those are in the records. The paychecks invoices have never been put on the warrant since the same time period. So next month, you're gonna see another extra warrant that's gonna have all the back paycheck invoices, and you're gonna ratify that. Another thing we found is that none of you are being paid the correct amount. Evidently, the treasurer was unaware of the fact that we had an ordinance that dictates what your pay is as an elected official. So Julie is currently working on a spreadsheet, and Administrator Rooney and Julie and I are gonna all get together, and if the three of us agree, your next paycheck will be higher, and then it'll go back down based on what it should be until May 1st, and then you'll get another change May 1st. So we've got to fix that. And like I said, there's a lot of things that just weren't happening, and maybe it was just a matter of communication, not spending enough time at Village Hall. I don't know. I'm just trying to determine what's going on, and we're just fixing it. And I'm trying to think of something else. So I'm trying to get the audit done, or the treasurer's report filed quickly. We're gonna fix your pay. We're gonna fix the police pay next fiscal year through the budgeting process, and we'll bring that up. And then we just have a list of other things too that we're doing. But the escrow is a big concern for me. You know, that is really not good. And I'm hoping it's not gonna be difficult to figure out. I already know it's gonna be difficult, because 2 years ago, I filed a FOIA and came in for the Brian Larson FOIA, sat here, went through the file, reported back to his attorney, this thing's a mess, and I can't make any heads or tails of it. Now, the good news is you had a settlement in that agreement, so hopefully that'll resolve that problem, but I'm hoping the rest of them aren't like that, otherwise, we have a big job ahead of us there. Go ahead.
And the escrow with
Oh,
the
Larson.
current,
Yeah.
the current
I'll
bigger
speak on that.
development is
Yeah.
not a problem. It's
Right, the
the
current-
older escrows that were never closed out.
It's not a problem, but I've done a debit and credit sheet, and my numbers evidently matched Administrator Rooney's, but I want to go through and check all the Klein Thorpe invoices since it started, to make sure everything's included. I'm waiting for hours from Administrator Rooney. Here's something that came up in my mind that I haven't resolved yet, is that I know in Mr. Braithwaite's contract, when we signed it, he would always put his developer charge rate. Do you put that rate, what you charge other outside developers, in your contract when you work with municipalities, so they know what the rate's supposed to be? And maybe you can answer with Klein Thorpe. Do you do that? I know, I just haven't looked yet to verify. Okay, good, that was one question, but I don't believe there's been a discussion on what the billable rate should be for Administrator Rooney. You know, he's salaried, so the money goes back into our general fund, but I think you should have a consensus on what, I think he had a recommendation, but at the next meeting, I would like to put forth an amount to bill Shodine that the board is comfortable with. And I think the rest of the people, didn't I see escrow agreements between H.R. Green and those kind of people defining their rate?
Yeah.
And was that something passed by the board? Like, does the board know what the rates are that are being charged? Or do I need to put something forward so they know what's being charged? Because I do think the board should know what we're billing out our vendors at.
Bring that to the
No,
next meeting.
it's, Yeah, we did talk about HR grants.
Okay, well, anyway, look for something like that, because that's something that needs to get addressed before I can do the invoice. I did notice that the escrow just fell under the 25,000 threshold, and I saw Dave as he left and told him, you know, hey, I'd be doing this and that, I'll be, you know, and it just went below, and I'll be sending, he said, yeah, send it to Sally, so, go ahead.
Regarding
Oh,
the.
you got to be recognized,
Oh, sorry.
Janet, but go ahead.
So regarding the earlier, smaller individual escrows, these are escrows paid by residents
Right.
towards, for various building projects, right? In which sometimes the escrow was completely used, sometimes there was money due back to the resident, and these problems go back many, many years, right?
I think the earliest I saw was 2016.
Right. And when this issue came up in the Brian Larson case, because he was one of the residents that had a kind of confusing escrow situation that you were kind enough to look into for us. As I recall, the conclusion was that the detail behind all of this had been in the prior accounting system, which was QuickBooks, and in the conversion to Cassell, balances were carried over, and effectively all that detail was lost.
That I did not know, which makes me sad.
And so I think that's unfortunately where we are in, you know, from what I understood. And
Well,
when that
maybe
happened.
we'll end up talking to QuickBooks and see if they save that software and see if it can be reactivated, or, I don't know. We'll have to look into it.
Yeah.
And if not, we're gonna have to come up with an agreement with the individuals or something. We're gonna have to resolve it.
As you know, almost everything that was in paper at that time was destroyed in 2022 approximately, so, you know,
Well, hopefully our bank has some detailed deposit entries that we can go back and get. We're gonna, add it to the list, you know, we've got a lot of background and research to do on things like that.
thanks.
Thank you. And-
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Patsy. Okay, finally, Police, Chief Levand?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
I had my hand up.
I'm sorry, yeah. Oh, you can stay here, Patsy, yeah.
So, thank you for the 40-cent raise, even though I thought this was a volunteer position. But anyway, at this point, have all the vendors and employees and contractors been paid, and is that all up to date at this point?
Yes, everything, the checks went out, I think the day after the last meeting. Are you talking the escrow?
Yeah,
No, we have to, Russ and I were just talking about it today, and some of I have, like I said, I have the credit and debit list, and some of the people at the bottom, they've been paid if they were on your warrant, but we haven't deducted it from the escrow to move it into the general fund to reimburse us for expenses. We have a few of those. Do you know how many?
3, I think.
Okay, so, the 3 on the last warrant. Yeah, we have the 3 on the last warrant that we need to deduct from our transfer funds. Does that
Good.
answer?
Or essentially,
Paid those vendors out of the checking account that the board asked us to set up for the escrow for show date.
Right. And the issue is we don't have checks, so we need to order checks for that account,
for the bank, from the bank.
or from Costco. But, yeah.
From Gus. All right, I think we're ready for Chief. Go to the B, Police and Monthly Report, January 2025. Working, there you go.
Tired. Okay, your January monthly report, calls for service 633, 12 accidents, 125 citations, 1 arrest. Everyone got hard copies of the 2025 annual report. If you don't want those, because it is also available online, those will be recycled, but I always make you the hard copies anyway. So I want to thank all the members of the department for their dedication, professionalism for 2025, because they made the report possible with all their hard work. Big thanks goes to Christina. She put the whole thing together. So we've sort of switched to a new format here with Flipbook. I learn new technology all the time. Flipbook is much better. So this year is what Flipbook put out. which allows us to have it on our village website, so someone can obviously go on there and look at it instead of just a PDF format. All your monthly reports going forward will also be in Flipbook, and we're trying to come up with some new designs for it, so hopefully we'll have a better look for the monthly reports going forward. Just a couple highlights of 2025, 5,061 calls for service. That was 2,295 calls over the previous year. The department vehicles traveled over 197,000 miles last year. I will keep saying that, 197,000 miles last year. This is why the replacement program is so important for our squad cars. We can't fall backwards on replacing our squads, we have to go forward. Currently, in the 4-vehicle fleet that is out there right now for officers to use, which are running 24 hours a day, 2 of them have been down for a week and a half for maintenance. That doesn't leave us very many squad cars to use. So as the village annexes, new development, we can't go backwards. This, I get it, this isn't 2007. This is almost 20 years later. We need to go forward with our replacement program. If not, we're gonna run into a serious problem when it comes to budgets, because it's getting there now this year. Your maintenance costs are gonna go absolutely through the roof. When we go out of warranty, our squad cars, 60,000, 100,000 powertrain. So when that transmission goes, and I had this past year at 103,000 miles, fortunately Dodge got it in under warranty, even though it was 3,000 over, that would have been $15,000 right there for the replacements. So these are things I'm asked in budgets to say, what do I think we're gonna spend? What's a realistic, it's an assumption. Like, that's all I can give you, because I don't know if something bad happens. But again, replacement cars, that's why it's extremely important for it. Department members participated in over 5,100 hours of training in 2025. Many of those hours are state mandated hours. The state continues to mandate our training, and the state keeps telling us we're gonna do more training, but guess what? The state is not gonna reimburse you or pay for the training. So that puts a big stress on all law enforcement agencies, because not only are we sending officers to training, we're paying for the training class, we're having officers cover at overtime for someone that's in training. So it's great the state of Illinois can say, here, I'm all for training, I'm all for professionalism, like, that's a great thing, I love it. But it is a big issue for especially smaller agencies when the state of Illinois continues to tell you, you're gonna do this mandated training and you have no say. You don't do this mandated training, your officers aren't certified as police officers. So that training budget isn't going to go in reverse anytime in the future, it's just gonna continue to slowly go up. We do great things, like we host NEMERT here, we started this past year. That gives us 2 free seats for every single class. The officers don't have to drive the training, so we're trying to come up with ways to save money. We have our own in-house instructors now that can do our own training for a lot of it. So we try to do as much as we can, but state of Illinois is not very pro-friendly for law enforcement on a lot of different levels right now, with a lot of the laws, a lot of the changes that are there, and that translates to the community because it's more money that has to be spent on it. Proud to be the first law enforcement agency in Kane County to have a school resource officer, an SRO, at the grade school level. Derek Bond is our SRO. He's amazing. He originally came from Palatine, 16 years of SRO experience. We tried the pilot program this year to see how it would go. It's been a massive success. School district, the schools, the parents, the children, they love him. He's at both schools, part-time hours, but he does both Wasco and Belgraham every single day. He not only has, obviously, the extra presence there for law enforcement, which the staff loves, but he gets to make connections with children at a young age. That's a big deal. Instead of all of a sudden jumping to a high school when you're older and you have a big police officer there and you've had no connections to the police, you don't know how to handle it, we have good, strong community connections with our families here. That includes the children at a young age. So Derek has done an amazing job, and that whole program has been piloted and funded under my budget. So there wasn't extra money asked for it, like that's been worked into our wages. So it's been a great program, and it is the first in Kane County at the grade school level. Just a couple things, 2 events on the same day, this happens every year. April 25th, we'll take part in the Great Western Trail Cleanup 2026. Russ, Great Western Trail, how does that sound to you? Russ came to us from the Great Western Trail cleanup last year, so we're looking for volunteers, obviously. The police department is hosting it. Last year, we had only over 60 residents come forward to take part in it. We did almost a 3-mile stretch of Great Western Trail. What we thought would take us 3 hours, we did in under an hour because all the volunteers. So that will be April 25th from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. The same day, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., we hosted DEA National Drug Take Back Day. This happens every year. We're fortunate, we have a drug receptacle box out there, so residents can use it Monday to Friday during business hours, and it gets used every day. But this is just an event we host with the DEA every year. One last thing, so I don't know if you've seen it yet, so when we did the remodel of the Village Hall Police Department, that front office up there was supposed to be designed as a soft interview room. Reason being is our only other option is you take someone to the jail back there, which is not warm and friendly, and you're now taking a victim of crime, and you're asking them to go back here. They may be hesitant to talk to the police to begin with, and go to a jail. It doesn't work. You gotta have a soft interview room. If you look at that soft interview room now, it has been redesigned. So the credit goes to Detective Oberth. He had a connection to an organization that, I wanna make sure I get the Project Beloved. Law enforcement agencies send in all these requests to have them redesign their soft interview rooms. We were selected because of his partnership with them at a previous agency. They provided all that in their furniture, the furnishings, everything, at no cost to the village. So when you look at that room now, it is a legitimate soft interview room. You take someone of a crime, especially a serious crime, they may be hesitant to talk to the police. You have to put them in an environment that they feel comfortable being able to talk to the police. So that is why that room looks completely different in there. But again, credit goes to Detective Oberth for that. So I think that's all I have, unless there's any questions.
Okay. Any questions for Chief? Oh, sure, go ahead, Nick.
Chief, I just wanted to touch on the vehicles. So there's 4 patrol vehicles and 2 are out on any given shift. There's 2 officers out on the streets. And then with the annexation, have you considered, is that still going to be adequate 5 years down the road?
No.
No.
No, it won't be adequate. We're fortunate now that, so right now we've gotten with the board and their support, we're pretty much able to run 3 cars for the most part. Sometimes it's 2 during the daytime. For the most part, have 3 cars. One's a detective, but he can still run calls. Night shift is 2 calls, which is well sufficient. Obviously, it slows down at night. If you're asking me over the next year, maybe 2 years, will we be sufficient at our staffing levels? Yes, I think we're good. But if you start adding houses, you start adding developments, anything else for growth, it's going to stress the police department. Like, we do a lot with what we have for resources as it is now, even this school SRO thing. Like, we do a lot. Whatever big agencies offer, we do the same thing in a smaller agency. But I just want the board to remember, there isn't development down there yet, but we're running calls down there. Kesslinger Road, Brundage Road, Harley Road, LaFox Road, that's our jurisdiction now. So, yeah, I mean, and you want to talk about accidents, and you want to see maniacs, go look at Kesslinger Road. I mean, 100 miles an hour, like Kesslinger, LaFox, accidents all the time. That's us. Like, that's our responsibility now. So do I think we can sustain the level we're at over the next year or so here? Yes, I do. But eventually, you're going to have to look at 1, 2 additional officers as development starts to go.
One follow-up, can I have a real quick follow-up? So it looks like we're like 50,000 miles a year per vehicle, and basically you're saying right around 100,000 miles is when you start to see that burden of service start to come in. I mean, you're seeing it. We're not getting 150,000 miles out of these.
And Chief, if you'd address how much time there's idling, they're not idling 24 hours a day, but 17 hours.
No, and with the idling thing, you couldn't, I mean, that's about the biggest point you could stress. So it drives me nuts when I see our cars, and I know it's accurate, and I've talked to the dealerships, we have synthetic oil. Most of your cars out, let's use my take-home car. I can literally go 8,000, 9,000 miles in my truck and not need an oil change. My truck doesn't idle, though. It goes home and gets shut off. Our squad cars, even our brand-new one from last year, every 2,000 miles, it's time for an oil change. And I've asked the dealerships this, and I knew the answer to it. They're like, take the miles out of the equation. Like, you guys do a lot of miles. They're like, tell someone to take their car at home and let that car run for 24 hours a day. They're like, you're breaking down the oil. Even though you're not driving the car, it's running, you're breaking down the oil. And then people will say, well, can't you do things like, shut off the cars? Well, sure we do. We have a lot of electronics in the cars. So if an officer shuts it down and then the whole system goes down, like, they can't run out to go to the emergency call and be like, oh, let me turn this on and this. They know when it's spring and summer, if they're out there for extended period of time, shut off the cars. Can't do it in the heat of the summer because you have equipment that has to be cooled. We have cameras, everything in there. Winter, it's the same thing. The idle miles are absolutely huge. And I just broke this down and I could give it to the board. I want to say roughly, because I don't have the exact numbers off the top of my head without looking, we spend approximately in a year, I think I've looked up, we're about $12,000 to $15,000 on oil changes. We're similar to that area, $12,000 to $15,000 on tires for the cars. Like, that's just that. Brakes, we're spending probably closer to about $22,000 a year on cars because it goes through them that fast. Like, that's just your basic maintenance. That's not anything else like wiper blades ever. It adds up fast. When those miles go, it's anyone's car. You get over 100,000 miles, it's like the manufacturer's scam. Like, they have cars programmed that as soon as you exceed their warranty, like, something is going to go wrong with the car. It happens to us every time. So police cars are different. And yes, are they driven harder? People say beat on. I'm not gonna say beat on, they're driven harder. If you're going to emergency calls on these roads, and remember, we go from the south almost to the Juvenile Justice Center, and then an accident goes off with injuries or something, and we're going almost to friggin' unincorporated Hampshire up by Plato Road because we go up north of Connors. That is a long run, so people are driving cars hard. And I just caution you, like, if we do not, and I know Treasurer Patsy, we've discussed this, like, if we do not stay and even increase it, like, we have to come up with a solution for the patrol cars, because I see that's gonna be the biggest issue going forward. Manpower, can we deal with right now? Absolutely. Patrol cars, we cannot.
All right, thank you, Chief. Any questions or comments? All righty, we'll move on to building and zoning.
No, I think we should
We're going to defer that?
defer that because
Okay.
you've got a long agenda and we
Yes.
can do that next week.
Good deal, okay. Move to action items. Motion to direct staff to renegotiate the Lauterbach and Amen agreement to provide Finance Department support services to the Village of Campton Hills with the stipulation from the board, and I don't know if we want to take B with it. Motion to authorize blank to sign the Lauterbach Amen agreements to provide Finance Department support services to the Village of Campton Hills. I think Mike wanted to talk about that, yeah.
Okay. So given our discussions at the last meeting, we need to get to a point where the president is comfortable appointing someone to be treasurer from originally we were talking Lauterbach and Amen. We had some concerns over their dual function as auditor and potentially then as treasurer. There's the standard answers that we have two sections of the company, but there's still a concern that it's still the same firm. So I'm wondering if that we maybe rethink this, because we were talking about potentially going to Sikich to be auditor henceforth. I'm wondering if maybe we don't see if we can get an agreement with Sikich that would be comfortable to Madam President, and then we can go back to TKO for audit services. We've used them in the past. So if that's the case, we can come up with a more comfortable list of services, talk to Sikich about that, and then see if there's someone that they have that would be to meet your comfort level. That would be my thought.
Mhm. Go ahead, Janet.
We've done our due diligence on Lauterbach and Amen as a staffing company. They're the largest, staffing company that does accounting work for municipalities. We've done our work. We made our choice. We voted 5-1 to make that choice. We overrode a veto 5-1 to reaffirm that choice. It appears that we are again being asked to reconsider our choice. I don't understand what part of no, Madam President, you don't understand. We've made our choice, and we're not looking to renegotiate the agreement with Lauterbach and Amen with stipulations from the board. That didn't come from us. To the extent that there may be a minor technical error in that contract that specifies them as treasurer when they've not been appointed as such, I'm sure that that can be corrected, but it doesn't change our selection of Lauterbach and Amen to provide outsourced accounting services and treasury services for us. So I'm offended that this item is on the agenda at all, and I think it represents yet another effort by an intransigent president to not accept the will of the corporate authorities in this matter. So I'm just a no on item A, and I don't know why we're really talking about it at all.
Well, I do believe that Mike wanted to comment, and that's pretty much why it's back on the agenda as well. So, anybody else? Therese, go ahead.
So I'm not, it was this, I'm not sure who put this on, but are we, if we approve this tonight, are we committing ourselves to Lauterbach and Amen going forward? Because I don't know that we even have that authority to make that decision, because I believe that that does lie within the treasurer's purview as well, to decide.
You want to speak?
I think you were deciding on this to direct
Go ahead.
either the mayor pro tem or someone to sign the contract, but now you've debated, Mike missed that debate, where the treasurer said, I have a lot of shall do, and I don't want to hire Lauterbach at this time, so Mike missed that 20,
Okay.
30-minute debate, I think.
Well,
So
let's-
you've got that issue still before you. I think that was on there because the president wasn't going to sign the contract, and you were going to need to direct either the pro tem or a staffer to sign a contract, but you'd have to authorize that tonight, because you can't go forward, you overturn the veto, but you don't have a signed contract.
So if we're talking about both A and B, I don't believe that, I think there's only one option of statutory option for someone to sign a contract, and that's the president. I think the only way the president pro tem could sign is if she was incapacitated, and she's not. So that, I'm not sure who you were going to put in that line, because you can't force her to sign it, and there's no one else available to sign it.
I'd like to hear what our new treasurer has to say. Anything?
Well, first off, I think you've got a legal,
Point of order, this is a debate amongst the board, and I'm not sure why we're hearing again from Patsy Smith. We made this decision about this accounting company. It is within our authority as the board, as the corporate authorities, to enter into a contract. And we did that, and that contract does not obviate your appointment. But in any event, this is our meeting. You've given your finance report. You spoke earlier in the special meeting. I really am not interested in continuing to hear what your objections to the Lauterbach and Amen contract are.
I have a question, a clarification question from one of the lawyers here about the statutory right for the treasurer to appoint their subordinates. That's a statutory right,
Carrie Lynn, maybe?
and to
And
me,
out of order for this meeting right now. This is not what we're talking about.
Sure
Janet, the
it is.
reality is,
Yes, it
if you need to understand as treasurer, I need to understand what that means. I know what it means to me, and to me, that means I have the authority and right to determine how I do all those treasurer shall duties. And I think that means I get to choose, like if I, this last 2 weeks, had worked with the 3 people that are here and determined they were not qualified, I believe, based on the statute, that I had the right to fire them and hire somebody else as long as I was within my budget authority and did not need a budget amendment. I
Nonetheless,
believe,
we have contracted an outside firm.
yeah, but contract that you approved, and these are legal questions. I think you have things that I'm not qualified to answer, and you need your village attorney or other attorneys to give you advice. Because the last thing I want, again, I'm committing to fiscal responsibility here, is for the board to agree to a $7,000 monthly contract for 3 years, so 200-something thousand dollars, that only gives oversight and doesn't do the actual work needed. That's a concern for me. Nobody has asked a recommendation. I don't know. I need somebody with legal authority to define what the appointment of subordinate means to the village treasurer, just like the clerk. The clerk
This is not
has,
necessarily a subordinate role. It's a contract that we entered into, and that's the end of it.
except that as village treasurer, I have the right to do the work myself, hire somebody else to do the work. You don't have the right to hire a company to do my work unless I agree to
I
it.
think the corporate authorities have broad latitude in defining what the specific duties of the treasurer are. There are certain ones that are statutory, but a lot of the rest of it, we have broad latitude in deciding who does what.
I would like to ask for a legal opinion from the interim appointed attorney, or this attorney, any attorney, I don't care.
My opinion would be, sorry. It's my understanding that the contract was approved, then it was vetoed, and then the veto was overridden, is that correct? Then in my opinion, the village board has the authority to enter into a contract under those circumstances. I don't know that the contract creates a subordinate to the treasurer or not. I don't know what the contract says or does, but certainly you don't have to have a president's signature if you've overridden the veto.
Carrie Lynn, could you quote on that? Can we hear what your opinion is? You'd have to use the microphone, I'm sorry, yeah, for recording.
I agree with Mr. Melody that if there's a contract and it's been overridden and you have the ability to do that, there's a contract. I don't think that's the issue, though. It sounds like what the issue here, and I'm not fully sure because I haven't looked at the contract in length, is that they're subcontracting out the staff performance duties for statutory functions of the treasurer. And I think that's what the issue is. So can you contract out statutory duties of the treasurer? No, you can't do that. And so signing a contract that's going to result in litigation, you know, I don't think that's in your best interest. So I think really what you practically need to do is resolve the issue with respect to the village attorney. My recommendation would be that you table and hold off on doing anything with Lauterbach and Amen for another couple weeks till you get that issue resolved, and then have your village attorney, whoever that is at the time, look into that, because it's not just as simple as a contract issue. And Mr. Melody's been put on the spot right here with this. He hasn't had a chance to look at this. So.
And
but
I would
but
agree with Ms. Kraftheffer that pushing this off until the attorney issue is resolved is a good idea. I don't know that there's any urgency to do this tonight, but in the absence of any such urgency, I think that's a very good recommendation.
Would I have a motion to table? Moved by Trees?
Yeah, I will move to table both 6A and B.
A and B. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
Are we tabling till when? Till a date certain, or just to some
You can,
indefinite time?
you can make a motion to postpone indefinitely, which means you can bring it back up at any, sometime in the future, which I think would make the most sense in this case. Or if you move to table it without specifying a date, it would come up automatically on the next agenda.
So I will choose option A, and I forget exactly how you worded it.
Postpone indefinitely.
Postpone indefinitely, thank you.
Postpone indefinitely.
And to bring it off the table, someone from the affirmative side of.
It would take then someone that voted yes to table to bring it back off the table. Because if it's indefinite till the majority of the table yes vote brings it back.
Okay.
So I have a question. So even though we agreed to do this before we even had a treasurer, that doesn't matter? I mean, we agreed to all of this when we didn't have a treasurer. So we have a contract in place.
Oh, we had a
Or
treasurer.
we
It was a
should have,
different
we should have
treasurer.
had a contract in place already. We voted 5-1. we all agreed to it. Then we appointed a treasurer, and
And we still
she
agreed
can
to
come
it.
in, going back to the rescinding conversation we had the last meeting, that we're not allowed to rescind appointments. Well, how are we rescinding a vote that we agreed, it got vetoed and agreed again to proceed with? How does that work?
If I may, at this point, you're not rescinding anything, you're just a motion to postpone it until your attorney can look into it and
No, but
figure
I
out-
understand, but conceptually, aren't we doing the same thing?
No, I don't.
I mean, we're kind of just backing off what we've already agreed to do because we appointed a treasurer who doesn't agree with what we want to do.
Mike, go ahead.
The, I guess I think that the difference here, if there is one, is this argument we've been having for close to 20 years now, that I alluded to last week or 2 weeks ago when I talked about my commission I had from Clarendon Hills, is the treasurer has 5 or 6 things they must do by state statute. And as a political appointee, that's what they're held to. That doesn't mean they're the finance director, that doesn't mean they're the budget officer, that doesn't mean they're the accounts payable, the accounts receivable. Because we're so small, we've always had the treasurer do all those things, or oftentimes. Maybe not receivable, you know, we have a clerk. So if I'm understanding what's going on here, if we're still wanting to sign a contract with Lauterbach and Amann, I think they need to know what they're getting into at this point, which this is different than when the contract was presented by them to us. Is we were looking for them to also provide a treasurer, which Madam President said clearly she would not accept anybody from that company to be treasurer. So, you know, my fast failing compromise from last week, or last meeting, is the fact that Ms. Smith is treasurer at this point, and that she should have some look at what she just said. What are my legal responsibilities? I need to be reassured that this contract's not going to broach those. And we would need attorneys to mediate on what would be the right contract, right form of contract, and then we would need to manage the hour, or change the hours, because at that point, I think we're looking at less functions, less high level from Lauterbach, as opposed to more policy-driven, more detail-driven, and if we're comfortable with in-house staff, then we're talking about supplementing them. I mean, if we have our in-house staff cranking on correcting the defects that we have had the last couple of years in our money handling and reporting, then nobody's going to be working on the policies, although I do see one policy here, so that was a good start. But we can use them to help close some of those other policies that we've been sorely lacking. So I think that would be the advantage of tabling, is to see where we are on the other side of this, and then have time to look at, and again, if you guys don't want to go Sikich, that's fine. We did agree to Lauterbach.
I don't mean to jump in,
Go.
but you've got a motion to table, and
That's true, we should be discussing the motion to table. Correct.
You shouldn't be continuing to debate. The motion to table,
Valid.
there was a first and a second, and you need to actually roll call that. That doesn't
Well,
preclude
there's
more
debatable-
debate.
You can debate a motion to table, and I think that's
If-
what
yeah.
we're doing.
But
Okay.
Wait, I'm not done then. He said I could talk more.
Okay.
He said I could talk more. Thank you. To the point, we would need enough time to do it too. So by tabling, I'll get to the point of the motion. By putting it on the table where any of us can take it back off, then it doesn't let it go away, right? It keeps us in the forefront that, okay, if we come up next meeting and say, what's our progress on this? And then we can demand more affectation of staff, not the right word. Efficacious, thank you, staff, to get that done.
So if you want to have an opportunity, as Mike said, to bring it back off the table, you'd need to vote in the affirmative, so that any member that voted on the winning side of the table could bring it back. Right? Is that what you were getting at? Yep.
Janet?
So trustee Millette brought up some good points, but I think also got a little off track. The The role that we contracted Lauterbach and Amon for was to do the actual accounting work. We did not contract with Lauterbach and Amon to be our treasurer. We did not make any attempt to usurp the appointment power of the president. There is a vast canyon between the small list of things that Trustee Millet alluded to that are statutory requirements and are echoed in our code regarding the responsibilities of the treasurer, and all the rest of the work that gets done. And so our contract with Lauterbach and Amon was intended, in the simplest possible terms, to cover all the rest of the work that gets done, and not to step on the specific statutory rights or prerogatives of the treasurer. When, it is true, I believe, that when this was passed, we didn't have a treasurer at that moment. But we had been talking about this for months, and we certainly had a treasurer while we were talking about it. We certainly envisioned that when we passed this, we might still have a treasurer on that day. And we understood that when we passed this contract, there would be a treasurer appointed at some time in the future. So there is a mischaracterization that has crept in here that somehow we appointed Lauterbach and Amon to be the treasurer, and that's not the case. That was an option. That is a service that they will provide, but it was clear to us that that wasn't something that was going to happen in the short term.
Can I
So,
try to clarify what's happening? I think there's been a motion to postpone indefinitely, and that, right? And was that seconded?
Mhm.
So that's been discussed, so that should be voted on at this point.
But if it's indefinite, can the winning side take it off the table?
If it's indefinite, it could be put back on the agenda under normal agenda placement procedures anytime anybody wants.
Okay, roll call, let's do. All right,
Really called
real
for a
quick.
vote.
Okay, really quick, just to put it on the record, we've talked about this before, the contract that they wanted, it does not do any of the operational functions. All of the normal day-to-day banking and cash controls, accounts payable, payroll oversight, financing reporting, audit support, all of that is reviewing the work of somebody else. The main work that this contract was going to provide in its 10 to 12 hours a week at $7,000 a month was primarily treasurer duties, which I had pointed out, the treasurer is going to want to look at this because she may want to do
That's
those.
right.
She's not going to accept someone else's reports. She's going to want to do her own. So just to make that point, we've talked about this before, but the vast majority of that contract is reviewing our employees' work.
Okay, do a roll call.
Trustee Hoffensperger,
A.
trustee Mira,
Aye.
trustee Benetti.
The motion is to pull this off
Postpone it.
indefinitely?
The motion is to
Indefinitely.
table indefinitely, postpone indefinitely.
Nay.
Trustee Boatner,
Nay.
trustee Burson,
nay.
trustee Millet.
Aye.
The motion is tied, President Warnecki.
Yes,
Okay, the motion was passed, the motion's passed.
Yes.
right. All right, C, motion to approve Resolution 26-13, approving an unclaimed and uncashed checks policy and procedure.
So
Mark,
moved.
you gonna-
I'll second.
All right, moved by Janet, second by Kim?
Yeah.
Okay. Mark, you gonna cover that?
This is something that,
Policy.
policy that we have that's lacking, and it's something that we're plagiarizing, which is a good thing when it's, East Dundee has researched it and done this. It's just one of these things as a policy that it's a good thing to do. It doesn't, it just corrects some deficiency that hasn't caused us a problem, but we should do this to be more compliant.
Yeah. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, I think you did have a motion and a second.
Scott?
I did not get a motion.
Yeah,
there was a motion and a
She
second.
wasn't listening.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
I was writing something down.
Okay, do roll call then.
Trustee Burson,
Aye.
trustee Muir,
Aye.
trustee Benetti,
Aye.
trustee Boner,
Aye.
trustee Millet,
Aye.
trustee Lovensberger,
Aye.
motion carried.
Okay, motion passes. D, motion to approve Resolution 26-14, approving an intergovernmental agreement with the Kane County Forest Preserve for open space for South of 38 LaFox of Campton Hills. Do I have a motion?
I've got a motion. I'd like to
Sure.
table this to a date certain, so we can discuss some of this further. So to the next meeting,
Okay, so, all right.
I'd like to have a motion to table till the
To
next meeting, so
table.
we can discuss parts of this more carefully.
So
Okay.
moved.
Okay.
That was Muir. Did you second?
I think Janet
She asked for a
seconded.
motion, so I
moved.
moved.
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't tell which one it was.
Okay, roll call.
Trustee Lovensberger,
Aye.
trustee Burson,
Aye.
trustee Benetti,
Aye.
trustee Boner,
Aye.
trustee Millet,
Aye.
trustee Muir.
Aye.
Okay. All right, 6E, motion to approve ordinance 26-15, calling for public hearing and a joint review board meeting to consider the designation of a redevelopment project area and the approval of a redevelopment plan and project for the proposed LaFox Road redevelopment project area.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Kim.
Second.
Second by Janet. Discussion? Mark, you want to talk about the JRB?
Well, yeah, I was going to ask,
Yeah.
we've got some dates set and some things rolling, right? So the
Right. So
And
if you,
explain the JRB.
if we approve this tonight, it will set the joint review board meeting for March 9th at 9:30 at LaFox and 38 at the Lutheran Church that we've had our other public meetings. And the joint review board is the taxing bodies, plus a recommendation for the public member, which usually the village would make that recommendation. And if they get a consent of that public member from the village of Campton Hills, they would be approved to sit on the JRB. And then when they take a vote after hearing all the legal aspect that meets the statute of legally establishing a TIF, the improving the flooding condition, moving from farmland to developable land as the statute requires. If they meet that, they could get an affirmative vote, and then you would just have to have 4 votes to set it for your April 7th board meeting to have a public hearing on establishing a TIF with the village board. If there's a negative vote from the JRB, you'd need a supermajority to establish the TIF instead of a simple majority, essentially. And I think that's spelled out, and Carmen did brief us on this a couple weeks ago. So you're doing this will then trigger that Kleinthorpe and Jenkins will send out certified mailings, I think that cost like $10.50 a piece. So we'll have to make sure when we're doing this to be cognizant that Kleinthorpe and Jenkins is ready to roll with those notices that have to go out before Monday. And that we'll have to, agree that that will be a bill that will be paid even if you change attorneys, is the only caution I'd have there. Because if we don't have them do it, we'd have to reload and delay the March 9th and have a different date. And I'll answer any other questions, or Tom can answer them.
Well, we're all set to send out the notices, we just need your authorization. It's really not a big deal.
All right,
yes, you'll be authorized.
Mike, did you want to?
That was my question. I just want to know who's sending out the notices and
Oh,
if they're
got
ready
it.
to go.
Got it.
It's
Anybody
been
else?
coordinated between SB Friedman and the developers, looked at it with their attorney and Kleinthorpe and Jenkins, and we're very satisfied we've met the statute to do this.
Okay, roll call.
Trustee Muir,
Aye.
Aye.
Trustee Benetti?
Aye.
Trustee Bowden?
Aye.
Trustee Hovensberger?
Aye.
Trustee Millette?
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, moving on to 7, discussion items, Affordable Housing Plan 2026.
It passed the Planning and Zoning Commission after many months of discussion, 6-0, to move it forward for passage for the board. Essentially, if you look at it, there's a rubric that the planners around the state follow. We followed that rubric and made the necessary changes that were required. A more formal adoption of an affordable housing plan was due just on a timing issue, and that's what was achieved with the Plan Commission. So I don't think there's a lot of discussion that needs to be done. It's a requirement the state has. The planner and the planning and zoning and the village attorney did review it, and it meets the standard, and I would recommend we move it forward for consent and send it down to Springfield. We're about 6 months behind, but they're not threatening us with any penalties for being late, but should get it done.
Okay, Mike, go ahead.
Was it B that we're going to go with on the 6B, right?
5% increase?
Yeah, is that what we're going with? There was a red note in there. Okay, that's fine, just, I thought that's what I read, want to make sure.
Excuse me, that was 6B? Beta.
All right, any other discussion on the Affordable Housing Plan? No?
Yeah, Mike's talking.
Mike's the document in 6B, it's the red line was changed. Those are the significant percentages to meet the state standards.
Go ahead, Nick.
I had a question, and it is on page 90, lands most appropriate for the construction of affordable housing. I know how things get pulled from these documents down the road to kind of justify and be the reason for something to happen. How important is it to have AI and AII suggesting locations in the village where affordable housing would be appropriate? Because truly, in and near the existing commercial mixed-use center of the village located near the intersection of Illinois Route 64 and LaFox Road, I don't know that I agree with that vision.
Well, they chose that because that's where there is water and sewer. So,
So how important is it to have that period? Does it need to be there, or can it just be removed?
well, I mean, the rubric wants you to at least try to identify an area somewhere in your 19 square miles that you could consider it. So when you just say absolutely, we're never going to consider any area, that might draw the ire of some review down in Springfield. So that's why it was
Could we
put there.
propose some undeveloped areas, more similar to the 47 corridor by the second versus right downtown in Campton Hills? I'm just curious how that made it on there.
Again, they were looking at the feasibility of where there is water and sewer, but there's no room at the end, as it were, on the Schaefer system spray fields. So unless that entity that is not the village's control buys more land to spray, there's no capacity. So it's meeting the definition of what the planners and have to try to achieve in that rubric I speak to, that they'll review down in Springfield on our plan. It's the cautionary way to identify something that's reasonable. But practically, unless they buy more land for spray fields, they're not going to have capacity. So we'd never be able to expand it.
Again, looking down the road and knowing that this is going to be a resource that future folks look at for, that was a suggested area for the low-income housing or the affordable housing. I would like to see that removed. I don't know if there's a consensus, but I don't think that that suggestion is a good suggestion in the document.
Yeah, it's potential, and I know how you're fearful that it says potential. And I think they had a lot of discussion on trying to identify somewhere, so that wasn't a blanket, we're never gonna do it anywhere,
But we
'Cause
picked
you don't
right
wanna-
downtown. We picked right in the heart of Campton Hills.
because of water and sewer,
Water and
potential.
sewer.
Yeah, it's the board's document. It's just the planner and the staff, when they reviewed it with the commission, they came up with that area.
And potentially it was overlooked, the point I'm making,
Oh,
so.
no, they didn't overlook it. They were considering doing it nowhere, and they were advised against that.
Mike, go ahead. Janet, go ahead.
I'm concerned about these locations as well, partly because the methodology for choosing them doesn't really make a lot of sense. Well, it's like, well, we can't put it here, so I guess we maybe need to put it there, instead of deciding where is really the right place to put it. The issue of the ability to develop something, so first of all, this is something that we've discussed in open session before. I know Trustee Millet is familiar with this issue, your water, not mine. We don't need support from Wasco Sanitary in order to build affordable housing. It would be better, but if we wanted to build affordable housing at the lot up by the roundabout that everybody keeps talking about, we could make it happen. You know, it would be better if Wasco Sanitary would work with us, and I think that there are plenty of reasonable people that disagree about whether the Wasco Sanitary system is tapped out or not. So I think there's plenty of places that are within the Wasco Sanitary footprint where this could go. There's multiple places along the Route 47 corridor where this could go. I question, in this particular example, why we would be looking at the intersection of Route 47 and McDonald, where there's three, nicely wooded subdivisions there. But if you go just on the other side, south of Burlington, between Burlington and Silver Glen, it's just farmland, right? So it would seem like that would be a better target for these kinds of things. And just as at the area by the roundabout, if we wanted to build affordable housing there and needed to sort out water and sewer for a modest number of units, it's a doable thing. There's ways to do it. Some of this stuff in smaller doses could even be done with traditional leach fields, I believe is correct, right, Trustee Millet? So I think we have options. I think we've also have not thoroughly explored what this would or should or could mean in the area around LaFox. We're talking about townhouses right by the railroad. That's not going to be the most valuable real estate in the subdivision. You know, is it possible that that's affordable housing under this rubric? Maybe. We haven't evaluated it yet. So I agree with Trustee Boatner that I think that the identification of these two particular parcels troubles me a little bit. I'd like to expand this list or drop the individual items cited unless that somehow makes our plan not good, right? If our plan needs specificity,
Yeah.
then let's have more choices.
I think if you review the recommendation of the planner and the commission, they said, please review the IHDA handbook, because it goes into greater detail in the background of the state statute and the amendments that you're supposed to consider for areas. So, they gave you a strong recommendation, but you have the right as a board always to take a recommendation or modify it. So,
Mike, go ahead.
A quick reminder to everybody, the number one need for affordable housing is senior housing. Okay, let's remember that. Secondly, these are large commercial districts. That's normally where you're going to put well, one is the existing commercial district we have, and the other one we envision at some point, because it's along Route 47, of being another commercial district. I think that's why we identified these potential, and it freaked everybody out when we had to have something on the land plan at one point, and it went like crazy with the whole town center thing, and that freaked everybody out, fine. But to the point, yes, you're right, trustee Burson, there is a way to do this with a digester, there is a way to do this with a smaller physical building footprint, using the rest of it as leach field. It can be done, you can drill a well, but, wait a minute, that might be the trick, because you can't drill a private well within a FPA, Facilities Planning Area of a district. So Wasco would not allow a well to be drilled there, so it would have to be some hybrid where they would get the potable water from Wasco, assuming they have well capacity, and then they would have to, that would limit potentially how much they could use, how big a digester, or how big a leach field would be. To the point, we have to identify something. If we don't, we put a bigger target on ourselves. It goes back to that old adage about zoning, about massage parlors and stuff like that. If you don't address something like, yes, we could have those, these are the places in the town we'd like them, then that opens you up to having a forced zoning on you by court zoning, and you don't have court zonings on you. So expanding potentially, yes, there are other areas that we have large roads. We now have Kesslinger. You know, we have, and to the point, we have the train station, transit-oriented development's kind of not as big a thing, but that still would be, I think, appropriate. So I would agree to add that on here. But I don't think I'm not as concerned about leaving sub-bullet item either, because it's honestly been thought of as the most potential place in town for a senior facility, because it's close to the stuff that seniors would want to get to.
All right, any other discussion? Okay, we'll move on. Additional items from the president?
Well, I think, are we going to, we have a motion to,
No, it was
no motion?
discussion.
So it was a discussion, so we're not going to
Yeah.
have a motion to move it forward for action, we're just going to leave it till the next meeting
We'll
again
leave
to
it till the
discuss?
next, yeah, it's discussion, so. Okay, any items? Go ahead, Mike.
We're already late on this thing. We got to do something with it. So we can't just leave it for discussion again, guys. We need to at least either edit it or something.
Then let's recommend additional items, additional locations.
Do it that way?
If you could, those that have additional locations or want to restrict it, just please send it to Jim Brown and I both, so we can modify it for a discussion, then possibly move it for action after that. We'll have it again for discussion next meeting with
There you go.
any recommendations made.
Mhm. All right, additional items. President, trustees, attorney, anything? Okay, there's no need, I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead.
With respect to, I was vicariously attending the previous meeting because I was getting updates from somebody I know very well who was watching it. I have to listen to her. There was a point of clarification I wanted to offer with respect to the term of the treasurer, and I want to be very clear on this. No, Patsy didn't say to me this would be the limit of it. That was my compromise when I was trying to make this again, now failing grand bargain. But I will be clear, one of the two of us will not be here.
As a win.
May 31st. One of the two of us will not be here. And to that end, while we are not going to get into, we're having a special meeting, I'm told, on Monday.
The president's going to make a.
Okay. While we're not getting into the details, I would like to at least say something. I felt good after the last meeting, worked through that. Everything was, I thought, okay. Again, my definition, everybody's equally pissed off or equally happy. Everybody's equally pissed off. I convinced a couple of you two, to vote the way we voted based on what I was expecting and what I was working on. And I may have pushed Mike O'Dwyer a little bit too hard to get him to fill in as Finance Committee Chair. So he couldn't do it, and so then the thing started rolling apart after that point. And then I saw the email we got from Madam President on Friday, and then I saw the special call request by the three trustees. And I can't help but to say I'm sorry for thinking I had the ability to broker something. As I said before, I thought everybody wanted me up here to try to help with these kind of things. Excuse me. And while I fully, respect that we all still want to do the right thing for this village, and we have different views on the sticking points, that we are, that we are still fighting the same, still fighting the same argument that we had, or the same problem, the concern that we've had about our form of government since we started. The first couple of years, it was clear everybody was on the same mission. We had essentially, Patsy served as the administrator at the same time as serving as the village president. We were doing all kinds of stuff. Patsy overshares a lot with it, so it's some very long, but she did. She went through this is what we're doing for personnel things. We knew what was going on. And we eventually started to move to where I'd hoped we would be all along, which is a council manager form of government. We didn't do it by statute, but we can massage things into the way we wanted them to be. And I thought it was working for a while, especially I think during the early part of Harry's term. I think it was kind of clicking. And then again, this treasurer thing is just, it keeps, the difference between what a treasurer and a finance director is, in most towns is not a problem. Most towns, you hire the finance director and the president appoints that person treasurer. Or you have that person's the budget officer and you appoint somebody else treasurer. And then the treasurer is limited to just the political, or what's in the state statute. And we can't get that right because we're so small. We have high-level folks that don't want to do the hands-on stuff. We've had some people are great CPAs that don't quite understand government accounting because it's a different animal. So we keep bumping up against this issue. And as I said last time, we identified this problem months ago. We identified this problem a year ago. We identified this and asked for a replacement at that point. And then we said, oh no, we got budget coming up, let's wait till after budget. And then we asked again. And it dragged, and it dragged, and it dragged. So we foisted on our own petard here. We let this go, collectively, all of us, that we didn't know where we were, we had no level of comfort for it, and we're now in such a big mess that, and again, let me back that up for the press who's getting hold of this or anything. There's nothing untoward here. We don't have any evidence of any fraud or anything like that. We just have evidence of real sloppy controls and bookkeeping. So we're at the point where I feel that this has been a tit for tat in a way, that we had this situation, agreed to it reluctantly, and there was another thing going on, and with respect, Madam President, that was the wrong thing to do. Wrong thing to do. We had this, we should have let it go for a while. I understand you had concerns. I understand other folks had concerns. We talked about a process, a couple of us, of talking about that there's a perceived defect on the performance, and to give that person's firm. That was done. I don't see evidence that we gave them enough time to actually remedy that ordinance, and then that got us to what I already identified, because, I'm an engineer, but I can read some parts of the state statute, that tonight was not going to be the meeting that we could do anything about it anyway. So to the level that I said at the last time, if we couldn't agree to that compromise, I would just come here, sit, be quiet, vote, and leave. I'm at that point. So I haven't been able to get anybody to truly believe in and going forward and wanting to get this right. And I came up with another solution just a moment ago okay, if Lauterbach and Amon is just poison to the president, can we talk to Sikich to maybe get her some level of comfort, because she has to appoint the person, she has to appoint a treasurer? And that we would, you know, look at, to your point, you're uncomfortable with legal counsel, that's fine. There's a way to do that, and we started and we only did it halfway. So, I will come to the next meeting, I will listen. I may not be so vociferous ever again. I'm not abandoning my post, but you know, we will have a discussion if we can't get a resolution to what we're looking at with a long-term solution, because we haven't gotten it. And I apologize from myself, from members of the previous body politic, that we haven't solved that nut yet, or cracked that nut yet. And that, you know, if we can look at where we should be to just try to get the people's work done, that we have this great development opportunity that we all agreed on. We got a great land swap that Madam President was integral in negotiating with open space with the Forest Reserve. I think there was a potential defect that we need to talk about on that, I agree. That all that, we need to concentrate on all that stuff getting done, and that we're succeeding on those things. And these issues here of how we're specifically governing and who's telling people what to do, and which org chart we're using, and which person is filling certain jobs. I'm at a loss at this point to come up with any other solutions. I'm tapped out, I'm sorry.
All right. Yeah, I was just, any other comments, items from trustees, attorneys? Okay. We're not going to go into closed session today, and I'm going to remove number 10. We're going to have like a special meeting on Monday, if everybody can attend. If you can't, just let us know. We can always arrange a different date.
I think the deadline is Monday.
The deadline's Monday? Okay.
7 o'clock or 6:30.
Yeah, 6:30 or 7, what do you prefer? Doesn't matter?
I won't be here. I'm out of town.
You're out of town? Okay. We'll do 7 o'clock. All right.
But it is for work, so I could attend.
Sure.
Remote.
Yes, you can. Yep. All right, motion to adjourn. Oh, sorry, Therese. Ah, oh. I think I passed it out, yeah.
This is what I passed out. This is not in there.
This
This
is
is what
it?
I passed.
Okay. Ah, thank you. Okay. Do you want, yeah, I can read it, or I could just make copies and pass it out. I believe I did. Yeah, I think you have it. Okay. We gonna take action on it today?
No, there's no action
All right.
taken on a veto. What happens is, there's no, it's not an action item. It's that you veto it, and then you do your reasons in writing, which you've distributed to the board.
Which I've done, yeah.
Which is sufficient, and then at the next regular meeting, the board comes back and has an opportunity to override the veto.
Okay,
That's the way that
yeah.
works.
Well, okay. All right, motion to adjourn.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Therese, do you have anything you want to add to the veto?
Oh, that,
So,
I'm just asking.
no, I'd like to know what you're asking, like, what's the
If you had
reason
any
that-
other comments to add.
You do understand that I handed that to her because she gave me her only copy. She handed
I
copies
understand.
to all
It
of
was-
us.
it
Do
was
I have
just-
anything more to add?
Yeah.
Have I ever kept my mouth quiet when I had things to add?
No, that's why I'd asked.
So I need your permission now to add things?
Yeah,
Is that how
motion
this
to adjourn.
works? Is that how this works now?
Motion to
So I
adjourn.
have to ask Frank Benetti's permission.
Aye.
yeah, well, all in favor, say aye.
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 We're adjourned.
Yes.